Hello and welcome to your ultimate guide for the Pennsylvania Real Estate Salesman Examination. My goal today is simple: give you everything you need to fully understand the key concepts, master them, and walk into your exam with total confidence. In this video we'll cover Real Estate Commission, Commission Composition, Powers Duties, Enforcement Appeals, Recovery Fund. With over 100 plus success stories, we have proven our videos will help you pass your exam on the first attempt. And remember, our website offers free exam guides and practice questions to help you ace your exam. You'll find the link in the description below, so be sure to check it out and get the resources you need to study smarter, not harder. So let's get started.
Let us begin with the foundation. Real estate licensing in Pennsylvania is governed by one state law called the Real Estate Licensing and Registration Act. We will simply call it the Act. The Act created the State Real Estate Commission, and that commission is the agency watching over everyone who holds a real estate license in the Commonwealth. So, where does the commission live within state government? It sits inside the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, which is part of the Pennsylvania Department of State. Picture nested boxes. The Department of State is the big box. The Bureau sits inside it, and the Commission is a smaller box focused only on real estate professionals. Now here is the most important thing about why the Commission exists. Its entire mission is to protect the public, meaning buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, and everyday consumers, from fraud, misrepresentation, and plain incompetence in real estate deals. It does this by regulating the licensed people who carry out those transactions. Public protection drives every rule. Let me ground that mission in something real. Imagine a first-time buyer who trusts a salesperson completely, never suspecting the agent might hide a known defect in the home. The Commission exists precisely for that buyer. By licensing, regulating, and disciplining agents, it works to make sure the professional across the table can actually be trusted. Here is a distinction examiners love to test, so let us make it crystal clear. The state legislature, called the General Assembly, actually wrote the Act. The Commission did not. Instead, the Commission writes the detailed regulations that put the law into practice. So lawmakers create the statute, and the Commission creates the rules that carry it out. On your exam, watch for a question that tricks you into thinking the Commission wrote the Act itself. Remember the order. The General Assembly writes the statute while the Commission writes and enforces the regulations. And know this limit: the Commission can never give itself more power than the Act allows. It must stay inside the law. Here is a quick memory trick. Think laws come from lawmakers. The lawmakers, the General Assembly, make the law. The Commission then makes the rules and acts like the referee who enforces them on the field. Lawmaker writes the rule book. Referee enforces the play. That image keeps the two roles separate in your mind. Now, let us meet the people who make up the Commission. This is a favorite exam topic because the numbers are so specific. The Commission has 11 members in total. Circle that number 11 in your memory right now, because a classic trap offers you 9 or 13 as tempting wrong answers. 11 members, no more, no less. So who are these 11 people? 2 serve automatically because of government jobs they already hold. The first is the Commissioner of Professional and Occupational Affairs. The second is the Director of the Bureau of Consumer Protection in the Office of Attorney General, or that director's designee. These 2 seats keep consumer protection front and center. The other 9 members are appointed by the Governor, with confirmation by the State Senate. 5 must be licensed real estate brokers, each with several years of active experience before joining. 1 is a licensed cemetery broker, since Pennsylvania also licenses cemetery sales, and 3 are members of the public who represent the everyday consumer. Why does the makeup matter? because it reveals the Commission's dual personality. On one side sit industry professionals, the fire brokers and the cemetery broker, who know the business from the inside. On the other sit public members and consumer protection officials who guard the public. This balance lets it regulate the profession while never forgetting consumers. Let me hand you a memory aid for those 11 seats. Picture the phrase 5 brokers, 1 cemetery, 3 public, 2 officials. 5 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 equals 11. Say it as a rhythm. 5, 1, 3, 2. The cemetery broker is the single specialist students most often forget exists. Here is how this appears on test day. You might be asked how many brokers sit on the commission, or who appoints the members. Lock in the answers. 5 brokers, and the governor appoints the 9 non-standing members with Senate confirmation. Do not confuse the governor who appoints with the Senate, which only confirms. What we just covered is exactly the kind of detail you will find in our free practice question bank. Those questions are not just simple recall either. They are carefully built to test the deeper understanding the real Pennsylvania exam demands. Work through them and you walk in genuinely prepared rather than just hopeful. Now that you know who sits on the commission, let us explore what it can actually do. The Act hands it broad authority over the entire practice of real estate. Rather than memorizing a long list cold, group these powers into a few natural buckets. Once you see the buckets, the individual powers become easy to recognize. The first bucket is rulemaking and licensing. The Commission adopts and enforces the regulations that carry out the Act, and those regulations carry the full force of law. It also issues, renews, denies, suspends, and revokes licenses, not just for brokers and salespersons, but for other classes too. So it controls the door to the profession. The second bucket is setting standards and testing knowledge. The Commission establishes the qualifications for a license, including pre-licensing education hours, the licensing examination, and the continuing education needed to renew. Pennsylvania contracts an outside vendor to deliver those exams, but the Commission sets the standards behind them. It decides what you must learn and prove. The third bucket is enforcement and discipline, the muscle of the Commission. It investigates complaints, conducts hearings, and disciplines licensees who break the rules. That discipline runs from a simple reprimand to a civil penalty of up to $1,000 per violation, all the way up to suspending or revoking a license. More on that soon. The fourth bucket covers money and record keeping. The Commission sets and collects the fees that fund its own operations, and it administers the Real Estate Recovery Fund, which we will explore shortly. It also keeps official records of every licensee, so it manages the finances, the safety net fund, and the paperwork that keeps the system accountable. Here is how those powers feel in real life. When you take your licensing exam, the Commission set the standard you must meet. When you renew, the Commission defined the continuing education you must complete. And if an agent cheats a client, the Commission can strip that license away. It touches every stage of a career. Here is an insight that trips many students. The Commission disciplines licenses, but it does not award money to harm consumers. If a question asks whether it can order an agent to pay a wronged buyer damages, the answer is no. The Commission punishes the licensee. Compensation to the consumer comes from somewhere else, the recovery fund. I know we are moving through a lot of detail, and you might wonder how to practice applying all of it. That is exactly why I built those free practice questions. They let you work through realistic scenarios that combine several of these ideas at once, just like the real exam will. Now, let us walk through what happens when someone believes a licensee did something wrong. The Commission follows a structured path with real due process, moving from complaint to investigation to charges to a hearing and finally to a decision. The exam expects each stage in order, so let us follow a complaint from start to finish. It starts with a complaint, and here is something important. Anyone can file one: an unhappy consumer, another licensee, or even the Commission acting on its own. The complaint goes to the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, that larger bureau we met earlier. The Bureau then assigns an investigator to gather facts and decide whether it has merit. What can that investigator do? Quite a lot. They may interview parties and witnesses, review records like the licensee's transaction files and escrow records, and inspect the broker's office. And here is a point. Licensees forget. They are legally required to cooperate. Refusing to cooperate is itself a separate violation that brings its own discipline. If the investigation uncovers a possible violation, the Commonwealth's prosecutors step in and file a formal charging document, usually called an order to show cause. It spells out exactly which violations the licensee is accused of. From that moment, the licensee is entitled to due process, which simply means a fair process with proper notice and a chance to respond. Due process gives the licensee two essentials. First, notice of the specific charges so they know what they must answer. Second, an opportunity for a formal hearing before the Commission or a hearing examiner. At that hearing, the licensee may appear, be represented by an attorney, present evidence and witnesses, and cross-examine the Commonwealth's witnesses. After the hearing, the Commission issues what is called an adjudication and order. It contains findings of fact, conclusions of law, and any sanction imposed. Remember one crucial detail. The Commonwealth carries the burden of proving the violation. The licensee does not have to prove innocence. The government must prove the wrongdoing actually happened. So what sanctions can follow a proven violation? They range in severity. The lightest is a reprimand, a formal mark on the record. Next comes a civil penalty of up to $1,000 per violation. Heavier still are probation with conditions, suspension for a period, and the most serious of all, revocation, which ends the license. A few extra wrinkles matter. The Commission can also order additional education or refuse to renew a license, and certain serious events like a felony conviction or one tied to real estate practice can trigger automatic action against the license. Whenever a license is suspended or revoked, the licensee must immediately stop all license activity. Let me give you a memory ladder for the sanctions, gentlest to harshest. Reprimand, fine, probation, suspension, revocation. Picture a staircase. The bottom step is a stern talking to, and each step up grows more painful until the top step takes the license entirely. Climb that staircase in your mind and you can rank any sanction. If this disciplinary process feels like a lot to absorb right now, do not worry at all. That is completely normal, and it is exactly why I created that free practice question bank. Working through those problems turns these stages from a blur into something you recall almost automatically when it counts. So what if a licensee believes the Commission got it wrong? They are not stuck. They have the right to appeal, but appeals follow specific rules, and the exam loves to test where an appeal goes and what the court actually reviews. Let us clear up both so you never second guess an appeals question again. Because the Commission is a Commonwealth agency, its final decisions are reviewed by a special court called the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. That court hears appeals from state agency decisions. In rare, limited situations, a case might climb higher to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, but the headline answer is simple. Commission appeals go to the Commonwealth Court. Here is the part students misunderstand most. The Commonwealth Court does not hold a brand new trial and redecide the facts. Instead, it reviews whether the Commission followed the law and gave proper due process, and whether its findings rest on substantial evidence. In plain words, did the Commission play fair and have enough proof? There is also a rule called exhaustion. Before running to court, the licensee must first finish the entire administrative process, the hearing and the adjudication. You cannot skip the commission and jump straight to a judge. A salesperson whose license was just revoked cannot sprint to court on day one. She must complete the process first, then appeal. Here is a memory hook for appeals. Think Commonwealth Agency, Commonwealth Court. The shared word links the two in your mind. And remember, the court reviews, it does not redo. It checks for legal error and substantial evidence rather than retrying the facts. Hold those two ideas together and appeals questions become easy points. Remember that truly mastering these rules takes real practice, not just passive listening. The free practice questions are designed specifically to help you turn what you are learning here into exam-ready instinct. A few focused minutes with them each day will do more for your score than hours of passive rereading ever could. Now we reach the topic that earns more exam questions than almost any other here, the Real Estate Recovery Fund. So what is it? The fund is a pool of money that compensates consumers who lose money because of a licensee's wrongdoing, but cannot collect from that licensee. Think of it as a safety net of last resort. Let us be precise about what the fund covers, because precision wins points. It reimburses a consumer for an actual ascertainable money loss caused by a licensee's fraud, misrepresentation or deceit, or the conversion of trust funds. And there is a vital condition. The licensee must have done it while acting as a licensee in a real estate transaction. Where does the money come from? Here's a point students get wrong. Not from taxpayers. It comes entirely from licensees themselves. Through assessments, every licensee pays into the fund along with their fees. And when the fund's balance drops below the minimum set by law, the Commission charges licensees an extra assessment to refill it. A consumer cannot simply ask the fund to pay. The law sets a strict 3-step sequence to keep it a true last resort. Step 1. The harmed person must sue the licensee in court and win a final judgment based on fraud, misrepresentation or deceit. There must be an actual judgment first. No judgment, no fund. Step 2. The person must actually try to collect that judgment, for example, through a writ of execution, and then show the court it cannot be satisfied from the licensee's assets. The judgment must be genuinely uncollectible. Step 3. Only then do they file a verified application with the court, notify the Commission and request payment. Here is a clean way to remember the steps. Sue, collect, apply. First you sue and win. Then you try to collect and prove you cannot. Then you apply to the fund. Picture 3 doors you walk through in order. You cannot reach the third, the fund, without passing the first 2. Sue, collect, apply. As we enter the final stretch, remember that understanding these rules is just the first step. Real mastery comes from applying them again and again, which is exactly where those free practice questions shine. They are completely free. They live in the link below, and they were built for Pennsylvania exam success. Now, for the numbers examiners test more than any others, the payment limits. The fund pays no more than $20,000 for any one claim, meaning a single transaction or judgment, and it pays no more than $100,000 total against any single licensee. $20,000 per claim, $100,000 per licensee. What if several consumers were harmed by the same licensee and their valid claims exceed $100,000? The aggregate cap still holds. that $100,000 is divided among the claimants pro rata, meaning in proportion to each valid claim. So a consumer might receive only a share, never more than the caps allow. Let me make these caps concrete. Imagine a buyer wins a $35,000 judgment against a broker for fraud, but the broker is broke and cannot pay. After proving the judgment is uncollectible, the buyer applies to the fund. How much do they receive? Only $20,000, the per claim cap. The remaining $15,000 is not covered. One exam trap deserves a warning. A question might give you a judgment larger than $20,000 and tempt you to pick the full amount. Resist it. The per claim ceiling is firm at $20,000, no matter how large the judgment. And do not mix up the per claim cap with the per licensee aggregate. Examiners blend those two on purpose. Now, the fund protects consumers, but it gives the wrongdoing licensee no free pass. The moment the fund pays a claim on a licensee's behalf, that license is automatically suspended, and it stays suspended until the licensee repays the fund in full, plus interest. So they still owe every dollar and cannot work until the debt clears. Two details complete the picture. First, the commission becomes subrogated to the consumer's rights, which simply means it steps into the consumer's shoes to chase the licensee for the money it paid. Second, the fund does not cover everything. It pays actual losses only, never punitive damages, interest, or extra attorney's fees beyond what the law allows. Here is your memory anchor for the caps. Think 20 and 100, a small claim and a big total. 20,000 is the most for one claim, 100,000 the ceiling for one licensee. And remember, the licensee gains nothing. Their license freezes until they repay with interest. The fund rescues the consumer, never the cheater. Let us bring it all together because you have learned a great deal. You now know Pennsylvania real estate is governed by the Act and enforced by the 11-member state Real Estate Commission, whose mission is protecting the public. You know lawmakers write the law while the Commission writes and enforces the regulations. That foundation supports everything else. You also walk the full enforcement path, from a complaint filed with the Bureau through investigation, charges, and a fair hearing to the Commission's adjudication and its ladder of sanctions. And you learned that an unhappy licensee appeals to the Commonwealth Court, which checks for legal error and substantial evidence rather than retrying the facts. And finally, you mastered the Real Estate Recovery Fund, the licensee-funded safety net that repays consumers their actual losses when a licensee defrauds them and cannot pay. Remember the path: sue, collect, apply, and the caps. $20,000 per claim and $100,000 per licensee, with the license frozen until the fund is repaid. You should feel genuinely proud of how much you understand now. These ideas connect directly to the licensure, regulation, and disclosure topics you will study next. So today's work keeps paying off. Now go cement it. Open those free practice questions in the description, test yourself on the commission and the fund, and watch your confidence climb. You have taken a big step toward passing your Pennsylvania salesperson exam today, and you did it by truly understanding the material, not just memorizing it. Believe in the work you're putting in, keep practicing a little each day, and walk into that testing center knowing you are ready. I will see you in the next video.